Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Madison channel. My name is Madison, and we are back with another installment of Black Girl Reacts. Now, because I already did the scripts for the months, I told you guys in the previous Black Girl Reacts episode where I reacted to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, of course, best show ever, that the true crime stories do not have to do with Pride Month, but I made a point in order to celebrate Pride Month to make sure my Black Girl Reacts have something to do with Pride Month. So today we are going to be reacting to another Jubilee video, Jubilee Middle Ground. We did one in May, we're doing one today, and this particular episode is a little old, but I think it's going to be interesting nonetheless. And the title is Can the LGBTQIA and Christians Find Middle Ground? And essentially what Middle Ground is it's a show on a YouTube channel called Jubilee, where they have two people from opposing sides of a discussion, and they ask questions. They all come to the center if they agree with the question, and they discuss with each other their opinions or the differing of opinions, and we see if they can find any middle ground. I'm really excited about this episode, so I'm not going to talk too much in the intro, but without further ado, let us get into it.
Of love. This is glorious and beautiful, and any God which denies me for this, I don't want to have a part of.
On the left-hand side, can I have my LGBT folks? On the right-hand side, can I have my conservatives? There are times when I feel uncomfortable expressing my views around sexuality.
I get uncomfortable primarily because the bromance of like, well, there's two girls, who's the boy? And then it really just breaks the ice as it's like, there isn't supposed to be a boy. That's why we're there. I do my best to break the ice with the comedic deflection, which I've learned is a self-defense mechanism, right? So.
I come from a very conservative community, and so, it just wasn't talked about. The people I've had the most conversation with about are actually my family, which is really weird because I came out to my parents because my dad was going to be leading the protests at the Pride Festival that my boyfriend wanted me to go to.
This company?
So
I'm a pastor as well. I'm also a community leader in Boyle Heights, and in that community there's a large LGBTQ presence, so there's that fear of really coming out and say what I believe, because I do love everybody and I don't want to be pushed to the side just because I have a certain feeling about any topic really.
I just wanted to say too, and it's not the beliefs that sometimes I have a problem with, or I think people have a problem with in general. It's just like the actions from the beliefs. So like, it's okay to have beliefs, but if we like can be loving in our beliefs and how our actions come from those beliefs, and like, I love that we're having this conversation, like trying to breach those, like build a bridge.
Okay, she didn't really say a lot. Like, I thought she was coming, because that's the point of it, right? They all came in because they agreed with feeling uncomfortable talking about topics surrounding sexuality, right? And because she didn't come forward, she was saying that she wasn't uncomfortable, but instead of talking about the topic, she kind of was like, which is cool. But it's like, you're the one person opposing you not feeling uncomfortable talking about your sexuality or topics around sexuality. So I would hope that you would have come with the reasons why you're not uncomfortable. Maybe that has to do with self-confidence. Maybe that has to do with how you grew up and all of that. But that, I feel like, would have been important to add into the conversation. The second thing with the guy and the guy who was a pastor in Boyle Heights with the like kind of salmon colored shirt. So if you haven't seen some of my other videos, I did a documentary reaction to Jesus Camp on my page. And there I really kind of talked more about my relationship with organized religion, how I grew up very religious, and what sect of Christianity my family was a part of, which was being Seventh-day Adventist. And a lot of people kind of do this nice, nasty thing. You kind of like perfect it when you're in situations like that, like very highly judgmental, rule-abiding social organizations like organized religion, or at least mine. And a lot of people are like, well, I feel uncomfortable talking about my beliefs that people shouldn't be together. Homosexual people shouldn't be together. And it's like, you don't have to feel uncomfortable about those beliefs, because even now in 2022, those beliefs are pretty widespread still. It's only in pockets of the country that they aren't as acceptable, as we're seeing with the Don't Say Gay bill and the trans kids bill and all of these weird ass bills that the South is doing in their areas regarding queer people. But it's like, it's not about like, and recognizing that is the first step to building that bridge that the blue-haired girl said she wanted to build with these people on the other side. Admitting that you have, an idea of what marriage is, even though you haven't done the work to deconstruct that idea, to question that idea, because they're traditional marriage people, Christian people. So it's like, marriage is not just one thing. And the construct of marriage should include all people and have the ability to include all people equally. And if we are all sinners, and if we are all the same in the eyes of the Lord, why are you casting judgment on other people for how they choose to live their lives? So with him saying like, well, I feel uncomfortable in Boyle Heights and organizing, and there's a lot of gay people in that area. And it's like, what I hate about them is like, in that mindset is, the world protects your rights, and these people are just very vocal about their rights because a lot of people do not agree with how they live their lifestyle. And that's the only reason why. They're trying to spread awareness, they're trying to get rights, they're trying to bring activism into that space of existing. So you saying that you don't agree with gay people being married or queer people being public and having relationships doesn't really add anything. It actually just diminishes a lot. So I don't know. I just felt like what he said was so like pointless, to be honest. And it's just like, clearly you haven't done the work to like research marriage, research the deconstruction of these kinds of concepts of what nuclear family and marriage means in a society like this, a capitalistic society like this, and how we're socialized to believe there's only one way to appear as a family or to appear as married, when the church has taken a lot of liberties on a lot of things and changed its mind on a lot of things. It's called progress. You know what I mean? You're not stoning people for wearing cotton and linen at the same time. You're not stoning women for talking back. That, you know what I mean? Like, slavery isn't okay anymore. People are widely okay with people getting married for a second time or getting a divorce. So why is it this one thing that Christians are so staunchly opposed to progressing about? And to me, it's just a bigoted way of viewing a certain community. It's pointless, and it just causes so much unnecessary drama, when in reality, it's just kind of like, the point of Christianity is to be a tolerant person and to try every day to be a good person. So what that has to do with questioning what happens and goes on between two people in their own home, how they want to build a life, I don't really know. And that's kind of what annoys me. Anyway, continuing.
Sins are worse than others.
In the eyes of, of the God I worship, I believe that any sin separates us from Him because He's holy and pure. But at the same time, I think there are certain sins that will have greater consequences.
Yeah, I resonate with that. For me, it would be, killing another human is the worst. That's it. Also, it Venn diagrams into abortion. Taking the life of another is huge.
Can I ask you two this? Do you all see homosexuality as a sin?
Yes.
And if so, where on that scale?
I don't think a homosexual tendency or an attraction to somebody of the same gender is a sin. I think that's a natural feeling. I think when you start engaging in a lifestyle and you act upon that tendency, then because it goes against what I believe God designed, then I think that's clearly a sin.
I just don't believe in sin because I feel that sometimes being punitive about things can like make you repress things, and like instinctually I was like, but not acting on them would be a sin. Like that's how it feels for me, like being dishonest to myself, that feels wrong.
Okay. I have so many things to say about that. This is a common belief system where people try to like, it's all people's interpretation of what God said, even though the Bible is what people said about God. So it's like not even what God really said, if we're being for real. And it's been chopped and screwed so many times to make this way of life that we live in, and it underlines capitalism and a lot of things. But anyway, that's a whole thing for another effing day. What this guy is saying is like, well, having homosexual tendencies isn't wrong, but acting on those tendencies is wrong. And I feel like I'm going to kind of get a little heated here. I feel like this is kind of the thing with like people who are Christian and believe in Christianity as the end all be all of being pure and blah, 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 blah. It's all about abstaining. Right? It's abstaining to the sins and the sensuality of what life can bring. You know, a lot of people talk about Sodom and Gomorrah and how it was smote, and, you know, everyone in it was smote because of all the sins that were going on there. And, you know, I agree with the blue-haired girl. I think part of being a fully functioning human being is knowing thyself and honoring thyself, period. I think that when it comes to attraction, which he admitted was a natural thing, and acting on that is somehow not natural. I don't really understand the logic there. But so much of Christianity is saying we don't do that like they do, so that makes us this. You know what I mean? For example, in my church, we're Seventh-day Adventists, wearing rings, wearing jewelry, having your ears pierced, being immodest, even wearing makeup, into some more extreme degrees, watching movies, wearing pants as a woman, things like that. Adorning yourself, gaudiness, all of that is also seen as a sin. So abstaining from that and being like plain and not having your ears pierced or whatever is somewhat supposed to make you holier than the person who decides to do that. To me, these are just personal choices and personal decisions that I think should be left to the personal. The point is, if we're technically going by the Bible, what Jesus was preaching, what the Bible is discussing is coming as you are and being accepted and trying to better your life through being a good person to other people, through deeds and actions that actually lift other people up and not expecting anything in return, which I think is a pretty good way of life. But it's like so much of the culture of Christianity is like, well, we don't watch those types of movies, or we may acknowledge that having sexual feelings to someone who is of the same sex as you is natural, but acting on it, that's the sinful part, and that makes you a sinner. It's just so weird, and to me, I find that the Christian people can be some of the most judgmental people because they're measuring their sin level all the time, even though they say statements like, we're all sinners, no sin is worse than the other sin, da 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 da, which I don't believe to be true, but everyone's calculating how much they've sinned in their life in that space and comparing it to the next bitch instead of just focusing on their lives. And that's why I feel like there's all these laws now, and they're just so nosy about everything and what other people are doing because they're perpetually trying to reify the fact that they are the chosen people and they are better people because they chose this way, this faith-based way of life, when it's actually more exclusionary than anything. We get it. You're boring. You don't want to do anything fun. Whatever. Like, why is that now my problem if I want to do something fun, or if I want to explore my sexuality, if I want to honor my feelings and honor myself? Like, it's weird and pointless.
At some point in my life, I was taught that sex is wrong.
I guess like within the context, sex is bad outside the context of marriage. And so I guess that's how I identified with the question.
I had a very strong religious upbringing, and I ended up doing a lot of self-harm, and I ended up doing a lot of things just to try and cope with these urges that when I finally gave into them, I went, this is a physical manifestation of love. This is glorious and beautiful, and any God which denies me for this, I don't want to have a part of. Because whatever this is I know for a fact to be a truth because it is the nature of love.
Yeah, just responding to your story, it makes me sad to hear that that you decided to hurt yourself.
Me too.
Yeah, I still hold on to what I believe are my beliefs, but at the same time, I wish there was a better way for you to talk to someone and to process and to think through reconciling how you feel with like what you may have been taught or have read through scripture.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is I think there's a lot of cultural baggage, I think, around Christianity that isn't necessarily inherently part of any biblical Christianity.
Even though I grew up in a Christian family, I don't recall ever being told that sex was wrong or it was a bad thing. I think I grew up with the understanding that sex is a beautiful thing. It was given to us as a gift to enjoy. There's a place where it's been designed for, a place where we can enjoy it, and there's a place where it's detestable in the sight of the Creator, the one who gave it to us.
I just don't like the idea that anything's really detestable, you know what I mean? So I just don't
But
like
wouldn't you say that
morals.
even sex for you within certain contexts is detestable? Right? Like if it's
No, 'cause I
non-consensual, like that's pretty detestable.
Yeah,
right?
agreed.
So even
but
in that
the things that I
context.
consent to are, I think, not, like that I have sometimes no control over if it's non-consensual.
This conversation is weird, but it's interesting. I feel like the white guy with the glasses definitely has a chip on his shoulder in regards to Christianity based on how he grew up, and I don't blame him. Being a gay person in an extremely Christian and conservative household is hell. And that's a conversation for another day about personal experiences with those kinds of stories. But it's one of those things where I feel like he came in very hot, especially in that question. And it's fine to be emotional, but I think that he wasn't expecting the Asian guy in the white shirt to just be like, yo, dude, like, I really feel like that really hurt me. That resonated with me, and I'm so sorry that you felt that way. But I liked his response in the sense that he was like, there's a lot of extra stuff that humans have added to Christianity that is not necessarily technically in the Bible, and they use the Bible to make this okay when that's not technically, in the Bible. So I enjoyed that. I think that the other guy saying that, he wasn't taught that sex was bad, but he was taught that sex without a very specific context was detestable. It's like that you were taught that sex is bad. You know what I mean? Like, in a very particular, you're married, you're this, you're not, and if it's not any of those things or checking all of those boxes, then it's detestable. Then you were taught that certain sex is bad, or a certain sex amongst certain people is bad. And so, I felt weird when he was like, I wasn't taught it was bad, but then said that some sex is bad. And the girl's response, again, I don't know. She's up and down with me. I feel like her responses aren't always hidden for much, but some sex can be detestable. And the guy who retorted was like, what about non-consensual sex? And that's totally true. I think I get what she was trying to say in the sense that characterizing gay or queer sexual situations as detestable purely on that basis is in itself detestable, because why are we always only uplifting straight heterosexual sexuality? It's taught to our kids, it's taught to everybody, you know what I mean? And they say we're the problem when it's not, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, this is very interesting.
People should honor the pronouns others wish to be called.
Oh, hesitation's enough.
I am all for this. Like, I identify as they. People don't consider it, and I think that like having these conversations about how people want to identify is like really important in a way that we can move things forward and stuff.
Yeah, if you're gonna like, hey, if you don't use whatever, you're gonna get fined or whatever, like that's, I'm not a big fan of that.
Those are conversations between us though,
but
right?
like,
yeah.
But otherwise it's just being respectful.
Oh, the pronoun police. So for me, I never correct people because many times people do confuse me as sir. I don't, it doesn't faze me. However, I'm born in a female body, I'm a she. There are times where my girlfriends have said, oh, my boyfriend this and that, just because of their comfort zone. They don't want to have to deal with the whole like social stigma.
So you're comfortable with them presenting you as a male?
It doesn't faze me.
Really?
It doesn't faze me at all because my identity and my expressions are masculine, and I've come to the terms and the realization that I don't need to chop up my body into different pieces to fit in the social little box that is man. If you want to address me, you can address me as he or she or them or girl Becky with the good hair or Beck. Yeah. It doesn't, as long as the term is respectful,
yeah,
I will take it.
I stood back just because it's a complicated topic, because with language is powerful, and so when somebody who I would consider female wants to be called a male, I would want to probably respect that, but I still firmly believe that, they're like God created there to be man and a woman, and I would like to sit down and talk to that person in depth before leaning one way or the other. Yeah.
But I think like focusing more on like building a relationship instead of just like grilling someone, why do you feel, you know what I mean? Like just trying
What's
to connect,
wrong with you? Like why?
Yeah, like let me sit down.
Just dissect you like
so you are the pronoun police.
I really liked what the guy in the white shirt said. I'm liking his contributions, even though I don't necessarily agree with his takes, like where the contributions end up. But I'm liking his hesitancy to lean either way without having more information. I really appreciate that. I think a lot of times, especially with the pronoun topic, which has varying caveats and people have varying feelings about that. Me personally, sometimes people refer to me as sir at quick glance, but it's like I'm a woman, like quite obviously, and I identify as such. But I respect and try to actively respect people's pronouns and, as they want to be identified, and I try my hardest to do so. On the other hand, I think it's important to give people grace. And context is important. I think sometimes people are so sensitive about the pronoun thing in different contexts where it's just kind of like, okay, but that was a guy you were passing on the street and he said that to you in passing. So is it worth getting riled up and trying to correct this person? Or can we brush that instance off and maybe focus on your immediate community and the people in your immediate community that you hope respect you and respect your choices? And you know what I mean? Like, I think context is important. If someone glances at me and says, oh, what's up, man, or whatever, I don't stop and say, like, what the fuck? I'm a woman, even though I identify as such. But I think that there's a lot of sensitivity because a lot of people are attacking the validity of using they, them pronouns or being non-binary. And I understand those feelings because you are going against the grain in a lot of ways. I also liked Beck's, kind of just saying like it is what it is. And as long as the way they're talking to me is respectful, I don't correct them and I don't feel the need to. It doesn't really faze me as long as I'm being respected in the exchange. And I appreciate that too. But yeah, there's varying ways to talk about this. There's varying, opinions about this. In terms of the people in my life that I have in my life, I try to be respectful of those pronouns, because that's what they feel comfortable with. And I tried, my boyfriend does this thing that he naturally does where he just addresses new people as they, which I think is really good. Like, even talking about people he just met, or like people in class or teachers or whatever, he's just like, and they, and they, and they, and it comes really natural to him, which I think is just a great rule of thumb, because you just don't know and you shouldn't operate based on appearance alone. So I try and do that in my day-to-day life, but I can't lie, like, it's hard sometimes, and I do say she or address people as she or mess up people's pronouns sometimes, but I think it's important to be given grace and all of the things. So yeah, but I really liked what the guy in the white shirt said. I'm surprised by this guy.
America is heading in the right direction when it comes to inclusion and diversity.
For me, it's more like the youth are headed in like inclusion and diversity. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's the institutions of power. I think the youth are really moving our culture forward, and like it's encouraging to see.
Now, I can't imagine what it's like to not be able to be who I am and having to hide. So I think it's good in that sense that people finally are living in a world where I can be who I am and I don't have to be ostracized and I can be included. And the reason why I didn't step in is because, I have certain values that I think are from God. And so that's why I hesitated a little bit on, do I come forward or not?
Well, and I have a question, because I'm curious where the sanctity of your marriage comes in. Like, if you can only get married to a woman because you and God and that woman have a relationship that is perfect for you, I'm curious how that affects who we can marry.
Yeah. I don't think the job of a Christian, for example, is to get people to behave in a certain moral way that's in line with what the Bible says. I wouldn't be one to say, you can't marry another guy, or you can't marry another girl. I would say, first of all, God loves you, God loves you.
Yeah, so specifically talking about like Prop 8. When Prop 8 came out, I was completely against it. I thought it was foolish and quite ignorant. And by many churches supporting Prop 8, we basically told the gay community that we don't care about you, we don't care about how you feel, what you think love is. We're just going to mandate that you can't marry who you say you want to marry.
We're adversaries.
Yeah, we became adversaries, and the church, I think, lost a great position in coming to people saying, like, we love you.
I liked what he said there. It's so crazy that, first of all, it's so crazy that I was old when Prop 8 was passed. I was literally in 8th or 7th grade, and that's embarrassing for America because I was 2008. So it's just what the fuck. But I remember this conversation, and this is a story that my parents love to talk about and love to tell about my sister and I. But as I said before, I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. Seventh-day Adventists are very conservative, so you can already understand what side of the conversation that they were on. Now, I loved what both of the Christian people were saying, because they were saying, you know what, just because I believe something, I think still can see that it's wrong to mandate that people can't do something if they don't view the same thing that I view as love or as a marriage or whatever. So I appreciated that perspective. And in my experience, basically Prop 8 was a hot topic, and in the teen class, one of the teachers brought it up. Here's my thing with church and a lot of whatever. I think a lot of parents offset actually raising their children to just leaving them at church and having them do church activities and having the church tell their children how they're supposed to be and how they're supposed to act, instead of talking to their kids and actually having their kids learn critical thinking skills and think things through for themselves, because having an opposing opinion or having a mind of your own doesn't really jive in an organized religion setting. So what I noticed is this teacher brought it up, and it's like, okay, we're talking politics in a mixed company. You don't know how people feel about this. And on top of that, we're talking about rights of other people. And you're basically talking as if all of us in this room agree. And I felt like that was inappropriate, just because it's like, teachers in school aren't supposed to sway you politically. They're just supposed to give you facts and information, and, you learn history, you learn things, and through your life, you make your opinions on those things, and thus your political point of view is sharpened on your own. You know what I mean? So I felt like that was weird. So we're alone with a bunch of kids in this back room, and this teacher's like, prop 8 is happening, da 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 da, it's terrible, and whatever. And most kids in that room agreed with what that guy was saying, because that's all they've ever heard. That's all their parents have ever heard. So they're just like, yeah, like, this is crazy. I can't believe this. And my sister and I were the only two people in that room, like, skirt, like, no, we're not gonna just have this conversation in this way. I don't agree with you. I know gay people. There's gay people and queer people in my life right now currently who are wonderful people who I think deserve the right to be married and who love each other. And I'm just not gonna sit here and have all of these fucking people talk about how gay people don't deserve to have rights. So we were clocking people left and right. And, I remember asking, like, do any of you guys even know a gay person? And no one rose their hands. And it's like, yeah, like, so again, you are even coming in with an active working knowledge of what a gay person is like. Your a perception of what a gay person is like is what you're told a gay person is like through the media that you consume. And it's like, so then you're going to then make assumptions about how they live their life and how they should be allowed to get married and socialize and have relationships based on the fact that you don't know a gay person. Like, it just didn't add up. So we were clocking people, we were rocking people left and right, arguments, dumb. The teacher couldn't handle it. He went and got the pastor couldn't handle it. And so it was just and he was like, oh, the lawyers are here. And it was just kind of like, dude, like, if Christianity is supposed to be from a loving space, then why are you fundamentally denying people of their basic human rights? Like, this country isn't supposed to be religious, so fundamentally, not everyone is supposed to believe the same thing that you believe, even though we're obviously heavily Christian, and that's not hidden well. But you know what the fuck I mean? Like, it's like, if that's what we're saying, then not everyone is required to have Christian beliefs, thus meaning everyone should have the same rights as adult people, and that is to be married if that's what they choose. Yeah, I don't know.
People should have the right to have sex with anyone they want.
Anyone? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Consensually, right?
All right.
Consensually.
With anyone? Okay. Yes. In the term anyone, except children.
Yeah.
As humans, and as creatures of a divine spirit, we have the right to follow our instincts and our sexual urges without punishing ourselves for, wanting a woman or wanting a man. And so, yeah, anyone has the right to consensual love making.
So the reason why I stepped back, and you guys would agree with me, but when I was 9 years old, I was touched by a family member. And so, I can't step forward when that question is asked. And I know you guys wouldn't agree with that, and that's, you preferred to the very beginning that, if as long as it's consensual and not kids, but that was my experience. And
yeah,
really sorry about that.
No, I resonate with that as well. I mean, I was as well, and it wasn't a family member, thank God. However, it was still enough of a tumultuous problem that even when I came out as a lesbian, I wondered if it had to do with that instant. It definitely brought up. And that's why it was the first thing that I said, because, one is innocent. and doesn't know. Yeah. Absolutely.
That got deep. I don't have much to say because I think they basically said, I agree with Beck in the sense that consenting adult individuals who are practicing sex, I think whatever they want to do, as long as it's consensual, is what they should be able to do with other consenting adults. No children. Yeah. I think that's pretty straightforward.
I believe in a higher power.
I'd love to hear from your perspective why you believe in a higher power.
I mean, the household I was raised in, why not? The analogy of like, one cannot see love, one cannot see air, and it's still there. And, I started going to more clergymen and wanting to understand exactly, my ways of being in the image of a greater creator, understanding I wasn't a mistake. There is a higher source. There is definitely something that has given me these blessings that have nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the bigger picture of things.
I think for me, I was also raised in a very strong religious background, and just as I cannot deny this part of me that is the way I express love, I'd be dishonest if I said that when I sat down and I prayed and I listened, I didn't hear.
Oh no, it's time for the heathen. You have to stop.
You are no mistake.
I resonate with some of the things you said too. Like, I do believe in a higher power. I just don't believe in like a typical higher power. And I also like highly believe in science. So I'm like, I believe in gravity as a higher power. I believe in like entropy as a, like things that are out of our control and stuff. And I want to always keep searching and always keep questioning and like always trying to find like as much love as possible, I guess. And I believe in other people's gods too.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in that for y'all, you know what I mean? Like, if that's what makes you a better person and makes you feel more yourself and feel more love, like, I believe in that, But I can't say that I believe it for myself because I don't know. I don't want to cast all my eggs in one basket.
Guys, thank you. Friends, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Yeah, so I think with that question, I'd agree with the blue-haired girl and a little bit of Beck. Growing up in a religious household conditions you to view the world in a way. I believe there is something bigger than me. I believe in spirituality. I believe in energies and all of that kind of thing. But like I said at the top, organized religion and me are no longer a thing and will never be. And I don't know, I would have to find a very special church to raise my child in that underscores belief systems that I believe are important and focuses more on individual actions and activism and love for thy neighbor and not so much judgment and judgmental things. And I think that that's kind of one of the biggest issues with Christianity, in my opinion. But yeah, that is the end of the episode. It was an okay conversation, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of these conversations don't get as testy. I think the testiest one, which I haven't seen in a while, was the Jewish people versus Palestinian conversation, and I think I'm going to get into that one at a different time, but these conversations normally end up pretty tame, which I appreciate, and I think there were some points that were made. I think I was pretty surprised by the Christian side in terms of the openness it seemed and the care, but I felt like fundamentally I didn't agree with their positioning. So, it is what it is. I think that people should be able to live the life that they want to live. I feel like people should be able to exist how they want to exist. And I don't believe in people judging other people in this way. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's dumb. I think it's a waste of time. And I think it's important to focus on bettering your life and being a better person. And I think it's unfortunate that this country is so tied to Christian beliefs while lying to us and saying we're not a country of religion and we're secular. because, you know, it clouds everything we do. And now we're in this situation where abortion rights are being tested and all of these bills against gay kids and talking about queerness in schools and trans kids are being floated by, all on the premise that it's like, yeah, you can say, oh, I don't individually want my kid to know about this, but we know that it has to come from some sort of Christian idealism that I think is just innately problematic when it comes to the public sphere of how we choose to live our lives. But that being said, yeah. So that being said, Black Lives Matter and Free Palestine until it's backwards. Come back. Stay a while. Subscribe. All of the things. Love you guys.